You have 2,000 hours in airliners. You have flown the 737, the A320, maybe even a 787. But right now, you want something different. You want to feel the wind. You want to look down at the patchwork of farms and rivers without a glass cockpit between you and the world. You want a first plane. Not a trainer you rent from a club, your plane. But here is the problem. You have a budget. You are smart enough to know that a Cirrus SR-22 or a Diamond DA-40 Star is beautiful, but you are not ready to write that check yet. You want to learn ownership first. You want to make your mistakes on something that costs less than a new SUV. You want to spend under $20,000. Is that even possible in 2026? Yes. But you have to ignore the noise. You have to ignore the YouTubers telling you to buy a restored Warbird. You have to ignore the broker who wants to sell you a Piper Saratoga with a fresh paint job and a hidden corrosion problem. You have to look at the bottom of the market, the place where smart pilots start and wealthy pilots forget to look. Let me tell you about the Piper Cub, not the J3 you see at air shows for $60,000. I am talking about the beat-up, fabric-patched, hand-start-only Cub that lives in the back of a dirt strip hangar. The one with the missing side panel and the oil stain on the floor? That plane. The one that flies like a tractor and lands like a feather. I know a man who bought one for $17,000 last year. He replaced the fabric on one wing himself. He rebuilt the magnetos with a YouTube video and a six-pack. He flies it every weekend. His annual inspection costs less than a night at a nice hotel. That is the secret. The perfect first plane is not the one you want to show off. It is the one you can afford to break. But maybe a Cub is too raw for you. You want something with a little more structure, a little more instrument, a little less like camping and a little more like flying. Look at the Cessna 150. The market says they are all $25,000 or more. That is not true. The market is lying to you. The clean ones, the hangared ones, the ones with the new interiors. Those are 25. The ones you want are the faded ones. The ones sitting on grass strips in Oklahoma and Kansas and Nebraska. The ones with the chipped paint and the cracked plastic bezels around the altimeter. Those sell for 15, sometimes 12. I have seen a 1968 Cessna 150 with a run-out engine and a fresh annual sell for $11,000 because the owner needed to pay a medical bill. That plane flew 200 hours before the engine needed anything. 200 hours. That is 4 years of weekend flying for most people. And when the engine finally failed, the owner parted it out for $9,000. He lost $2,000 over 4 years of ownership. Try that with a Cirrus. Here is a moment for you. I want you to think about your real mission, not the fantasy mission, not the cross-country to Oshkosh with your family and your dog and your luggage. The real mission. Sunday morning, you and a friend, 200 miles to a diner with a runway. Maybe you fly alone. Maybe you just want to do touch and goes until the sun goes down. That is the mission. And for that mission, a Cessna 150 is perfect. A Piper Cherokee 140 with a dented wing and a VFR panel is perfect. A Beechcraft Musketeer Sundowner that looks ugly but flies straight is perfect. Those planes are out there. You just have to be willing to drive 6 hours to look at one that smells like old gasoline and regret. But let me warn you about something. The trap of the cheap, complex plane. You will see a Piper Comanche for $18,000. Or a Mooney M20 for $19,000. And you will think, that is a bargain. A retractable gear, constant speed prop, 200 miles per hour. Why would anyone buy a slow Cessna 150 when you can have that? Here is why. Because that Piper Comanche needs a prop overhaul that costs $6,000. Because the landing gear mechanism on that Mooney has a service bulletin that requires an inspection every 100 hours. That takes a mechanic 2 full days. Because the previous owner stopped maintaining it 3 years ago and just flew it anyway. That plane is not a bargain. That plane is a lawsuit waiting to happen. The perfect first plane under $20,000 is simple. Fixed gear, fixed pitch prop, 4 cylinders, no turbo, no retract, no autopilot that is older than you are. Simple. Let me give you a specific model. The Grumman AA-1. The Yankee. Most pilots hate them. They say they are twitchy. They say they are noisy. They say the stall characteristics are dangerous. Those pilots are wrong. The AA-1 is a sports car. It wants to fly. It does not want to lumber. And because the market hates them, you can buy a flying AA-1 for $16,000 today, right now. I looked this morning. The engine is an 0235, the same engine in the Cessna 152. Parts are everywhere. The airframe is bonded aluminum, no rivets, no corrosion issues like the older Cessnas. And here is the best part. It burns 5 gallons per hour. 5. That is less than your lawnmower. You can fly for 2 hours on the cost of a decent bottle of scotch. But you have to be careful. The AA-1 has a weakness. The landing gear, not the gear itself. The attachment points. People have landed them hard and bent the fuselage. That is not a cheap repair. So when you look at a cheap AA-1, you bring a mechanic. You look at the belly. You look for wrinkles near the gear attach points. If you see wrinkles, you walk away. If you do not see wrinkles, you write the check. Now let me talk about the plane nobody mentions. The Piper PA-22 Tri-Pacer. The flying milk stool. It is ugly. It is slow. It looks like something from a cartoon. But you can buy a running, flying, legal Tri-Pacer for $18,000 all day long. Why? Because the market hates tail draggers that pretend to be nose wheels. The Tri-Pacer has a nose wheel, but it flies like a tail dragger. It drifts. It weather vanes. It keeps you honest. And because most pilots are lazy, they do not want to work that hard on the ground. Their loss is your gain. The Tri-Pacer has 4 seats, real seats. Not the back seats in a Cessna 172 that only fit children. Real seats. You can take your spouse and your 2 friends and a weekend bag. You can fly at 100 miles per hour, burning 8 gallons per hour. That is not fast. But it is flying. And flying is better than not flying. I want you to pause here. Seriously. Think about the last time you went to a fly-in. Think about all those beautiful Lancair 4Ps and epic E1000GXs sitting on the ramp with their covers on. Now think about the Tri-Pacer that flew in from Ohio with the camping gear strapped to the floor. Which pilot is having more fun? The one who is afraid to scratch his paint, or the one who tied his plane down next to a muddy field and went to get a hot dog? The answer is obvious. The perfect first plane is the one you are not afraid to use. Let me tell you about the Cessna 172. Everyone wants one. Everyone knows the name. And because of that, the prices are insane. A decent 172 is $40,000. A good one is $60,000. But here is the loophole. The Cessna 172 with a run-out engine. The one with 1,200 hours since major overhaul. The one that smokes a little on startup. The one that the flight school sold because they did not want to pay for the overhaul. You can buy that plane for $18,000. Easy. Then you fly it for 200 or 300 hours while you save money. Then you overhaul the engine. Now you have a fresh engine in a decent airframe. You are all in for $35,000. That is $15,000 less than buying the same plane already overhauled. And you know the work was done right because you paid for it yourself. That is the smart path, not the easy path. The smart path. But wait, what about experimental aircraft? You have seen the Van's RV-10. You have seen the Rans S-21 outbound. Those are beautiful. They are also $40,000 minimum for a flying example. But look at the older experimentals. The Van's RV-4, the single-seat hot rod. Those can be found for $20,000 if the paint is ugly and the panel is basic. The Van's RV-6 with a fixed pitch prop and an 0320. I have seen 2 of those sell for $19,000 in the last year. Why so cheap? Because the builders were getting old. Because the owners wanted to move up to something with air conditioning. Because the market is afraid of experimentals. They should not be afraid. An experimental built by a competent builder is safer than a certified plane from 1968. The difference is paperwork. And you are smart enough to read the paperwork. Here is the real secret. The perfect first plane under $20,000 is not a specific model. It is a specific condition. It is the plane that has been sitting. The plane that the owner has stopped loving. The plane that has dust on the glare shield and a dead battery. Because when an owner stops loving a plane, they stop maintaining the cosmetics. But they usually keep maintaining the engine. They usually keep the annual current. They just want it gone. They want the hangar space. They want the money. They will take $18,000 for a plane that is worth $25 because they are tired of looking at it. You want to find that owner. You want to be the person who says, "I will be there tomorrow with a trailer and cash." Let me give you a list. Watch for these. The Piper Cherokee 140 with the 160 horsepower upgrade. The one with the chipped paint and the worn seats. The Beechcraft Musketeer Sundowner that looks like a refrigerator with wings. The Grumman AA-1 or AA-1A. The Cessna 150 with the O200 that still runs. The Piper P. A-38 Tomahawk. Yes, the Tomahawk. The one everyone hates because it spins if you look at it wrong. That plane is cheap. $15,000 all day. And it is not dangerous. It is honest. It tells you when you are flying badly. That is a good teacher. But you have to avoid the killers. Do not buy a plane that has been sitting outside for 5 years. The engine will be junk. The corrosion will be everywhere. Do not buy a plane with a damaged logbook. Missing pages are fine. Missing annuals are not. Do not buy a plane from a seller who will not let you do a pre-buy inspection with your own mechanic. That is not a seller. That is a liar. I want you to think about the math. $20,000. That is less than a decent used car. That is less than a jet ski and a trailer. That is less than a home theater system for the house you never leave. For that money, you can own a machine that flies. That is not nothing. That is everything. You can walk into a hangar, pull the chocks, and leave the ground behind. You cannot put a price on that. But apparently the market has. And the market says $20,000 is enough. Let me ask you something, right now, before you click away. What is stopping you? Is it the cost of maintenance? A Cessna 150 costs about $1,500 a year for an annual if nothing is broken. Is it the cost of storage? A tie-down at a small airport is $50 a month. Is it the fear of making a mistake? You are a pilot. You have already proven you can handle fear. The only thing stopping you is the idea that you need a nicer plane. You do not. You need a plane that flies. That is all. I have flown the Global 8000. I have flown the Gulfstream G800. Those are offices. Beautiful offices with catering and leather, but they are not flying. They are traveling. The Piper Cub at sunset with the door open and the wind on your face? That is flying. And you can have that for under $20,000. You just have to be brave enough to buy something ugly. If you have found a diamond in the rough, a plane that cost you less than $20,000 and gave you more joy than anything with a turbine, put it in the comments. Tell everyone what you bought and what you paid. Do not be shy. The more of us who share these stories, the more people realize they do not need a six-figure loan to get off the ground. And if you are still sitting on the fence, tell me what is holding you back. I will answer, because the perfect first plane is out there. It is waiting for you. It is ugly, it is cheap, and it flies. Go find it.